Hi, everyone. Welcome to week 5. I want to thank you for bearing with me during week 4 for the simulation. I apologize that there were a couple hiccups with the links in the beginning of the week. Um, as I said, this is the first time we've run the simulations, so we're figuring a few things out. We got all those fixed, and I noticed a number of you have completed the simulation when I recorded this video. Be honest, I recorded this in the middle of week 4. So by now, you all should have completed your simulation. So, week 5, we're going to continue the theme of team building. Our objectives for the week are we're going to talk about conflict management and how to resolve and prevent conflict, running effective meetings, and how to support and stimulate creative teams or creativity in teams. These are all key, especially when you're into management, of how do you keep a team motivated and creative. It's very easy to get into ruts when you're doing things. For example, I hated when people said, "We've tried this before," but we've tried this before. When somebody comes up with an idea that you've done before, you have to reevaluate what has changed in your circumstances. For example, after I left corporate America and in teaching, I've done a lot of volunteer work, and I volunteer with a theater. And we talk a lot about all of this um, communication and team building within the workplace, but that's really, really important when you talk about volunteering. Because when you volunteer with an organization, particularly we'll talk about nonprofits here, a lot of times on a board of directors of a nonprofit or a committee of a nonprofit, you are pulling people from all walks of life. Some people may have been in technology, some in healthcare, some in education, some in banking. So everybody brings different opinions, different methods for doing things to the table. And so, how do you cohesively come up with ideas that will work for the organization? And because these committees and boards change over almost yearly as people roll off and on committees, the same ideas will come up over and over again. And it's very important not to stifle those new ideas, even though they may be the same or very similar from newer members of the team. So what you need to do is take that idea, though maybe you did it last year, and evaluate, have our circumstances changed? Especially in today's world where it feels like things are moving faster than ever, especially when you're talking about nonprofits. Your funding is always changing, whether it be government funding or private sector funding or individual donors. All of this is impacted by the economy at large and how donations are received. So when you're fundraising, somebody may come in with an idea that you've already tried. But because the timing has changed, you really should look at that idea again. And I'm giving an example for a nonprofit. This also applies to any business you're working with, no matter your role. Even if you're not the manager or a team lead, you don't want to be the person that automatically says, "We already tried that and it didn't work." Be open to creativity. Maybe that person has a new spin on an idea or a way to do things. So you really want to work hard on not stifling the creativity. Another idea when you're at the table and talking about ideas is to use an improv for acting. Is you restate the idea and then say but and a statement. Or better than but would be you restate it and you say and add to it, or add a clause to it, or add your thoughts. This allows the creative process to continue flowing. And if you've ever seen improv on TV or taken an improv class, you know that that's how improv works. You summarize what the first person said, and then you add to it with the word and. So think about that this week as you are coming up with your assignments, especially the second assignment for week 5, your group assignment. How do you build upon each other's creativity without stifling it? Now, obviously, if somebody has misstated the simulation, misquoted, misunderstood, it is perfectly fine to correct that. You want to make sure the facts are correct, but the creativity is still there. So let's take a look at the assignments for this week. Oh, first, the readings. Make sure you read these. I know there are a lot. They're kind of short. Um, Conflict management is huge. So we talked about stimulating creativity. One of the reasons we don't want to stifle creativity is a lot of times that produces conflict. Another workplace, you can see, I've done a lot of things over the years, but conflict in the workplace is really there when you are in quality assurance. As a quality assurance engineer, my whole role is to find issues and problems with software and point them out to the developer. You don't get more conflict than that. Basically, I'm saying, here's your work, you did it wrong, now fix it. But I have to say that nicely. I can't just come out and say that. So these articles talk about different ways to resolve conflict and go about conflict in a nice way. One thing I learned early on is not to take things personally. When you're looking at and working in a group, there's going to be conflict. And just because somebody doesn't agree with an idea of yours or has to point out maybe you have the facts wrong, that's not a personal attack on you. That is a statement about the situation in the room. People used to laugh. I was really good friends with the development manager. I was a quality assurance manager. And literally, our job in a meeting was to argue. I would say, hey, this doesn't work right. Your team needs to fix it. And she would say, no, or we can't fix it in this time. We got to get software out to production. And we would go back and forth. And sometimes it would be very heated because we both were very passionate about protecting our teams and supporting them. And so we would get heated and we would come to resolutions. And people would look at us like, oh my goodness, they're mad at each other. Oh my goodness, what's going to happen? And we would stand up and leaving the room, we'd say, hey, do you want to grab lunch? Do you want to go for coffee? Do you want to go shopping after work? Because we knew that what we were saying was not personal. It was about the business and the project at hand. We were both very successful people. And that goes back to the respect and the valuing, a lot of words I heard in your discussion boards last week. So you want to do that. Make sure you respect and value the person enough that you can help them with the issues. And you're going to disagree at times, but you've got to work through those disagreements in a respectful way. Sometimes you might get not respectful, but remember, it's not you, it's the situation. And that's how you keep your calm in a conflict. So I've talked a lot this week. My announcement's longer than normal, but those are two areas I feel very strongly about. And I feel that if you can really get a handle on developing creativity in a team or a workplace, no matter what your role in that team, as well as managing conflict within the team and within yourself, you will be very successful in anything that you do. So let's look at the assignments. They're very straightforward this week. The reflection is your first assignment. I want you to reflect on what you did in the simulation. This is very important because the simulation is new. I want to hear anything that like, wow, was out there. You can add a little paragraph at the end saying, love the simulation, hated the simulation, give me your thoughts. But I really want you to reflect. We talk about reflection is key to growth. So reflect on everything you did, your decision making, your analysis, and then the process. So that's the first one. You're going to double space this paper, and it should be 1 to 2 pages in length. I'm not looking for a 10-page essay, just a nice, succinct, give me all the information paper on your experiences with the simulation. And then the second one, this is your group assignment. I know group assignments are not everybody's favorites. We keep them to a minimum in the class. I know everybody's on different time zones, different work schedules. That's why I chose a discussion board. There's not too many synchronous moments in this. You can do a lot of it asynchronously, but you're going to share your experience with the simulation. You need a unified recommendation for the organization's next step. So this is a very real life project. A lot of times you're going to have emails flying back and forth, and then you have to come together. It may be on a Zoom. It may be via email. It may be in a group chat where you need to synthesize all the emails that are flying around and come together and make a recommendation. And that's what you're doing here. So the deliverable, you need to create a recommendation on the next steps and a brief statement to stakeholders. And I ask that you do that in slides. We say PowerPoint. They can be in Canva. They can be in Apple's. Sorry, I think it's just called slides. Whatever product you use, that is fine. So this week, if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I can't wait to hear about your simulation experience. Like I said, this is exciting for me because this is something I picked out. A lot of times we're told what to teach. And so it's always exciting when I get to pick what to teach. And I just think it was a fun thing for me to look at. So I'm hoping you enjoyed it. Have a great week, and I look forward to your work.